Last night, an elderly, confused man went missing in New York. Luckily, a band of self-satisfied elitists found him babbling on the street, threw some pants on him, gave him a stage.
Oh my God.
I'm going to say one thing. Trump.
Yeah, poor Bob. You know, he's like a star whose girlfriend dumps him for a bigger star who's in the White House while you're in Dirty Grandpa. Ooh, this is sad. Here you have someone pretending to be a tough guy turn out to be just a second banana for Joy Behar, the poster child for Trump derangement. Sadly, Bob is now just another gibbering, enfeebled ninny, surrounded by inept relatives as he frets about how Trump's in power, and he's not. See, Trump's rise coincides with De Niro's decline. And the person who knows it most is De Niro. He's a fine example of how not to turn loss into bitterness. There are plenty of people who don't like Trump, but don't let it warp their minds or their ability to speak aloud among grown-ups or The View. But the Schiffs and De Niros of the world are emotionally damaged by politics to a point where they can't even assess their own emotions.
What do you get when Greg Gutfeld torches Robert De Niro on live TV? A verbal bloodbath that makes Raging Bull look like a bedtime story. De Niro came in with his usual grumpy glare, but Gutfeld, he came loaded with savage one-liners and zero mercy. In seconds, the Fox News firestarter shredded Hollywood's aging tough guy, exposing his act as all bark and no brains. De Niro tried to throw shade. Gutfeld turned it into a spotlight and roasted him under it. This wasn't a debate, it was a massacre. And De Niro left blinking in silence, steamrolled by sarcasm. Hollywood ego versus cable news chaos. Guess who walked away laughing?
Last night, an elderly, confused man went missing in New York. Luckily, a band of self-satisfied elitists found him babbling on the street, threw some pants on him, gave him a stage.
Oh my God.
I'm going to say one thing. Trump.
Once upon a meltdown in the kingdom of washed-up fame and dusty trophies, Robert De Niro crowned himself America's grumpy moral compass. Forget acting. The man now thinks he's the oracle of political wisdom, shouting down from his luxury tower like a furious Shakespearean ghost. Because obviously when the country's on fire, what we're all dying to hear is a millionaire octogenarian scolding the masses between catered brunches and film retrospectives.
Robert De Niro graced the knitting circle in hell known as The View, where he tried to link random thoughts into a sentence. Joy was there to wind him up, since he's played some of the most unredeemable characters.
You have played some of the most really unredeemable characters. Travis Bickle. Travis Bickle was a psychopathic taxi driver. Jake LaMotta, who used to beat his wife, and he was in the Raging Bull. Is Trump worse than they are?
To me.
Cue Greg Gutfeld, the snark assassin who gives off keyboard warrior with a camera crew energy. And yet, against all logic and Hollywood fear, he did the unthinkable. Roasted Robert De Niro so hard it left smoke trails on cable TV. No shouting, no theatrics, just lethal sarcasm, sharp enough to slice through De Niro's ego like a hot knife through Botox.
Being an actor is tough. For how does one handle real life without a script? Not equipped to think analytically, you're left powerless when observing your own predictions about life turn out wrong. It's not supposed to be this way, De Niro thinks. Only the cool guys get to win. Sorry, Bob. That's only in the movies, but at least you'll always have joy.
De Niro was once cinematic thunder, the guy who made mobsters look majestic and menace look cool. Now, he's the grumpy ghost of awards seasons past, popping up at political rallies like your overly dramatic uncle who won't stop yelling at the news. That legendary glare, it's less intense method actor and more, someone spiked my espresso and stole my talking points. The brooding, it's gone from iconic to clinical. He doesn't act anymore. He simmers like a broken espresso machine stuck on rage.
It kills me. Talk about persuasive. Really, I was on the fence about Trump, but then I decided to really listen to one of the great generational leaders of American pop culture. And the clenched fists at the end, that really drove it home. It looked like he was pressing a 2-pound weight in a Jenny Craig commercial.
Oh my God.
Look at it again. It's so cute. It's like he found out the restaurant serves Jell-O, or that he won a $10 scratch-off, or he scored a cameo in Jersey Shore,
Gutfeld didn't need a Hollywood set or a teleprompter, just a sliver of sanity and a sharp tongue. When he aimed that spotlight at De Niro, the so-called screen legend didn't shine. He shriveled. Because behind all that furious celebrity bluster, there's just an aging actor who thinks barking political rants into a camera counts as connecting with regular Americans. While De Niro was busy method acting as America's most irritated grandpa, Gutfeld wasn't impressed. He was observing, not to learn, but to document a rare and dramatic species, the preachy millionaire who thinks applause equals authority. This breed lives for red carpets, screams during election cycles, and survives entirely on ego and filtered outrage. De Niro's specialty? Delivering moral lectures from gold-plated podiums as if they were Shakespearean tragedies. Except no one asked for a performance. But this time, someone didn't clap. Someone smirked. And that someone was Greg Gutfeld, the guy who dismantles Hollywood egos not with fury, but with a perfectly timed sarcastic shrug.
Yeah, poor Bob. You know, he's like a star whose girlfriend dumps him for a bigger star who's in the White House while you're in dirty grandpa. Oh, man. So now the resistance is reduced to applauding tantrums. Who knew De Niro's lasting role would be irrelevant gas bag pleasing irrelevant peers? And he's doing this as Trump organizes a summit. Not a war, a summit. And you gotta wonder, if it were President Hillary, Bob's choice, would you actually have a summit, or would you have a war? But forget deeds. What matters is adulation received from an emotional display before a packed sea of millionaire lemmings. So who cares that Trump meets with North Korea? It's no meet the parents. Right, Travis?
Gutfeld said what everyone else was too polite to admit, that Robert De Niro, the king of make-believe, suddenly thinks he's America's moral compass. It's not just ironic, it's full-blown red carpet delusion. While De Niro ranted like a soap actor in a dramatic twist, Gutfeld coolly dismantled him like someone reviewing a bad hotel stay. Calm, cutting, and merciless. The contrast was brutal. De Niro strutted like a political prophet who hasn't seen a Walmart since Blockbuster was open, and Gutfeld called the bluff. Fame doesn't equal wisdom, and in Hollywood, mistaking the two isn't embarrassing. It's fatal.
De Niro clearly has thought about this. More so than his career, his choice of roles is now down to cinnamon and lobster. He was then asked about the Trump kids. At least he doesn't want my kids to take this the wrong way.
I don't want my kids to take this the wrong way, but if my kids did what these kids did, I wouldn't want to be related to them. I would disown them.
Gutfeld, with that dry-as-dust delivery, didn't roast De Niro. He held up a mirror, and what De Niro saw wasn't Travis Bickle or Vito Corleone. It was a tone-deaf millionaire scolding the masses from the comfort of his marble foyer. And the best part? Gutfeld barely had to lift a finger. De Niro practically gift-wrapped the mockery, full of theatrical outrage, dramatic pauses, and that signature scowl that's aged from iconic to parody. He's not a Hollywood heavyweight anymore. He's the living embodiment of a rage-filled Facebook rant in human form. This wasn't a debate. It was stand-up comedy, and De Niro accidentally volunteered as the joke. Gutfeld read the room. De Niro read his own press clippings. And guess what? The crowd could tell who was faking it. When Gutfeld brought in facts and calmly tore through De Niro's contradictions, the mood shifted. Not from volume, from precision. Sarcasm doesn't shout. It stings. He wasn't just mocking a man. He was exposing a culture where private jets and protest signs ride in the same trunk. Celebrity activism as sacred truth? Gutfeld cracked that illusion wide open, with a smirk, not a scream.
What a sad end for a great actor. He went from Raging Bull, to this. You know, De Niro kind of represents Hollywood in the sense that they realize that they're losing influence with the public. And that's what's generating the emotional response. They've never felt less important.
And the crowd, they didn't riot. They laughed because Gutfeld did what everyone else had been quietly craving. He called out the Hollywood elite for what they really are: wildly rich, wildly loud, and wildly disconnected. De Niro, who probably thinks public transit is a film location, stood there trying to channel blue-collar rage with the sincerity of a man who hasn't clipped a grocery coupon in his life. Meanwhile, Gutfeld, a guy who likely once lost a battle to a parking meter, spoke with the kind of grounded sarcasm that hits home for people who actually budget. De Niro's rebellion, a grimace for the cameras. Gutfeld's, a pinpoint joke about who the real out-of-touch figure in the room was. And what made it gold? Gutfeld didn't even act like it was a fight. He handled it like a casual roast session, calm, razor-sharp, and low-key lethal. As if De Niro's latest speech was less of a political statement and more of a sketch comedy audition, he didn't realize he was bombing. De Niro wanted to deliver gravitas. What he got was a masterclass in how not to sound like a self-important relic. Gutfeld didn't bury him. De Niro gave him the shovel and narrated the eulogy.
Before I get to you, let's go to, I think he was in Canada, Toronto, opening a restaurant or doing something, and this is what he had to say.
And I just want to make a note of apology for the idiotic behavior of my president. It's a disgrace. And I apologize to Justin Trudeau and the other people at the G7. It's disgusting.
You know, I actually feel bad for him because I think he's one of those people that has never emotionally recovered from 2016. This is a guy who's got serious Trump disorder.
Let's talk about the delicious irony of watching Hollywood's toughest tough guy get verbally KO'd by the snarky underdog with the loudest mic in the room. De Niro, the cinematic mob boss, got metaphorically clipped, not by a rival actor, but by Greg Gutfeld, the guy who treats political commentary like stand-up with a vendetta. Gutfeld didn't strut or spike the football. He smirked, because when the hypocrisy is that loud, satire becomes a civic duty. De Niro's rants might still get claps in mansions with ocean views, but Gutfeld's punchlines hit where it hurts. The real world, where gas prices matter more than golden statues. There was a strange beauty in it, a poetic wrecking ball. The Oscar winner met his match in a man who made a career out of calling BS with timing sharp enough to slice through a monologue. Gutfeld didn't stoop to De Niro's level. He stood still and let the delusion collapse on its own. The real sting? It wasn't what Gutfeld said. It's that everything he said had been simmering in silence, just waiting for someone to say it out loud. The De Niro mythos had expired long ago. Gutfeld just stamped obsolete on the label and moved on. In the end, De Niro didn't lose an argument. He became a case study, the final proof that Hollywood's moral compass isn't just broken. It's spinning in circles on a table no one's sitting at anymore.
Jesse, I find that he's smartest when they drop his audio. But, you know, it's kind of sad because you can see, like, people who are stuck in some kind of, I don't know, derangement, they can't see it themselves. And they're not surrounded by people telling them that they have a problem. And they lack self-awareness because everybody either tells them they're wonderful or wants to sell them cocaine. So he has no clue what he's doing, and he's upset over the emotional nature. His anger is emotional about Trump. It's nothing practical.
The script flipped, and suddenly the tough guy from the silver screen looked less like a legend and more like a lecture on legs. De Niro tried to command the room like he was still in a Scorsese scene, but the audience wasn't watching a movie. They were watching real life, and they were laughing at the irony. The once revered icon trying to deliver wisdom from a mountaintop he hadn't climbed in years? Yeah, that didn't land. The fallout? De Niro vanished back into the smog of celebrity indignation. And Gutfeld? He walked away without a scratch, leaving behind a roast so subtle it didn't burn. It just left a cold, hard chill of truth. Because here's the brutal reality. De Niro's career didn't explode, it quietly expired. Like a once great brand now sold in the discount aisle of political relevance. Legacy's a tricky thing. It either gets better with time or curdles into something bitter that only the pretentious pretend to enjoy. De Niro popped the cork, poured it into a paper cup, and started shouting at the sun. And Gutfeld? He didn't go for the jugular. He just raised an eyebrow, gave a half smirk, and let De Niro unravel all by himself. Like a monologue no one asked for at a dinner party no one remembers. It wasn't a roast. It was a reality check. The moment the room stopped clapping and started questioning if the great De Niro was now just a cranky headline in search of applause.
He is the most boring interview. He used to sell his movies on Leno and Letterman, and it was like watching a WNBA game. You just were just bored to death. All of a sudden, Trump became president, and he started saying things, I want to punch the president in the face. You know, he's a crooked piece of... And then all of a sudden, De Niro became interesting during his media tours. And that's the only way now he can get publicity for his film, is by cursing and...
Here's the twist in the plot no one saw coming. Robert De Niro didn't fade because of age or because the spotlight dimmed. He vanished because he wouldn't stop clinging to a hologram of his former glory. A museum exhibit of himself that stopped resonating with actual humans sometime after dial-up internet. While De Niro struts around like he's America's moral compass, most Americans just want him to retire his angry grandpa in a movie that doesn't exist persona. Gutfeld, he read the room. He didn't come swinging. He just opened the blinds and let the daylight in. All that remained was the noise, loud, off-key, and echoing in an empty room. And in that silence, Gutfeld's smirk said everything. That sometimes all it takes to pop a balloon of celebrity ego is a well-placed one-liner. De Niro brought a Shakespeare soliloquy to a roast. Gutfeld tossed him a pie and walked away. And that's the gut punch. The takedown wasn't malicious, it was effortless. And the joke, it didn't just land. It replaced the monologue as the only thing worth remembering.